This is just an update. CNN's poll did not come out. It was supposed to be an Iowa registry poll. Their excuse is that there was some kind of mistake in one of the respondents, and so they didn't show it. Fair enough. That may have happened. In this case, this is South Carolina. Now, this is, I think it's called Post and Carrier. I think this is called Post and Carrier poll. And to make sure, it says change research, but this was done for the Post. But this poll is for South Carolina. Now, this particular poll, Joe Biden, 24%, Bernie Sanders, 19%. Yes, this is indeed South Carolina. Okay, I was right. Post and Carrier change research poll. South Carolina. If you remember, Joe Biden at one point was winning South Carolina by 30 points. Yes, at one point, Joe Biden was winning South Carolina by 30 points. That is utterly tremendous. And he was getting, I think they say, half of the black vote in the entire state. Now it's down to 30% of the black vote. That number still kills me, but nevertheless, it is what it is. Sanders has gotten a majority of the white vote. Take a look at this, though. Look at Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer is at 17%. He's 7 points over Warren in this poll. All for cash. It's just cash. He was able to buy his way into this race. There was no public support. Nobody was clamoring for Tom Steyer. If Tom Steyer wasn't a billionaire, Tom Steyer would not be in this poll at all. He'd be down there with 1% and 2%, like the other people who weren't billionaires. Can't believe that's allowed. Yes, as any American that's a part of this country, being rich does not make you not an American per se, but you can run. So my issue is not necessarily that Tom Steyer is running. My issue is that A, Tom Steyer is a billionaire. I don't like that. And it's B, that money is not innocuous. And in this case, that money is allowed to buy status in this race. He's doing exactly what Bloomberg has done. Bloomberg, for the most part, could drop $1 billion in this race, and Bloomberg wouldn't miss it one iota. That forces all of the other campaigns to try to compensate by spending more and more and more cash. Now, if you're a grassroots candidate and you're getting that money in by $10 increments, $2 increments, you have to up the amount of money that you're spending to compete with a billionaire. I mean, he's forcing the other campaigns to spend more cash. Him and Tom Steyer. Bloomberg spent, $250 million in television ads. Steyer was over like $120 million. And he dumps that money where? Partially in South Carolina. That's what $120 million buys you in a Democratic primary. Utterly astonishing. The trends matter. I keep saying it, trends matter. Bernie Sanders or Biden's lead shrinks to 5 points in South Carolina. Now, what have the trends been? Sanders surging. That's been the trend. Not just in one state, multiple states. Now, I have to look further into the polling to figure out what was the thing, but I do know that there was a swing of like 17 points in an age demographic that Sanders wasn't initially getting. Meaning Sanders was getting the young vote from 0 to 34. But the moment that you got beyond the 34 and you get the 50 to 64, those type of numbers, his support goes down precipitously. Well, in this case, Biden was getting that support, and that support has started to swing to Sanders after the Social Security fight. So his lead shrinking to 5 is consistent with his lead shrinking in the other states. This is why I say trends are important. The numbers are, yes, the numbers matter, but they matter in so much as what they show from a kind of a collaborative effort where you can just bring all the polls together and just kind of look at it and say, all right, what are people saying? Yes, there may be issues in certain states that may be different from other states will make them distinct, but those people are just people, and the large issues and concerns that we're talking about, like Medicare for all and everything else, applies to them across the board also. Their only issue with Sanders was, could he beat Trump? Is Biden more electable? That was the only issue. Biden is living off of electability. This vote, the only reason that Joe Biden is ahead in this poll at all is the black vote. That's the only reason. The black vote, to some degree, is tethered to Biden and Obama, but it's also tethered to this notion of electability. When I made my argument early on that said Sanders needed to go after the black vote, I said he needed to go after this notion of electability. He did that. He needed to go after this notion of the elderly, meaning Joe Biden's attempts to cut Social Security. Eventually, he did that. He hasn't done the black vote thing. Joe Biden needs to be cut down on his lies. Meaning the video that you need to make, your Bernie Sanders response team, is showing Joe Biden in that black church lying over and over and over again, saying that he was part of the civil rights movement, and then somebody just stands up and read his book. Just read his book. He tells you right there that that book repudiates everything that he's saying on the campaign stage. And the notion that you don't do that bothers me. This is what I mean by killer instinct. You should not be allowing Joe Biden to skate, convincing and conning a whole series of black people in South Carolina. What are you in this race for? Yes, this is the thing about Sanders that aggravates the shit out of me. It wouldn't bother me one iota for Sanders to make a hit video on Biden exposing his lies and hypocrisy on this notion of being part of the civil rights movement. For fuck's sake, you're getting hundreds of millions of dollars to be the avatar of all of these people's will. Especially, you have a black demographic, yourself, in the younger demographic of African Americans that don't buy this nonsense, that can look this nonsense up. You owe them. What I mean by you owe them, it just means that you should represent them when somebody out there is flagrantly lying to try to convince another section of the population that he was something that he was not. That's all I mean by that. If you want to show yourself marching with King, go for it. If you want to give a rousing message at the end of it, go for it. But you should definitely expose Joe Biden's lies. There is only a 5-point difference between you and him in South Carolina. I will tell you this. If you close that gap in South Carolina and beat Biden in South Carolina, Biden can call this shit a day. He can call it a day. Everybody assumed that Biden will clean up in South Carolina, and Biden's lead has been shrinking. Like I said, he had a 30-point lead at one point in South Carolina. And now it's down to 5. It's down to 5. Post and Carry a Change research poll. Joe Biden, 24%, Sanders, 19%. He's right there. When I say a surge, God damn it, I mean a surge. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.